You're not introverted, you're emotionally on guard. Maybe you've called yourself an introvert for so long that you stopped asking a different question. What if you're not avoiding people because you dislike them? What if you're avoiding the work your brain has to do whenever you're around them? You tell yourself you enjoy being alone, and sometimes you really do. But there are moments that don't fit the story. You rehearse a simple conversation before making it. You feel exhausted after meeting people you actually like. You notice tiny changes in someone's voice and wonder if they're upset with you. You think about something awkward you said 3 days ago. You leave a gathering and replay the entire evening in your head, looking for mistakes nobody else remembers. It doesn't feel like shyness. It doesn't even feel like fear. It feels like work, invisible work. The strange part is that people often see you as quiet, calm, and easygoing. They don't see the calculations happening underneath. Who seems annoyed? Did I talk too much? Did I say enough? Should I text first? Should I wait? Did that joke land? Should I have stayed home? The question isn't why you need time alone. The question is why being around people sometimes feels like carrying a heavy backpack nobody else can see. And the answer might have less to do with introversion than you think. Because there is a difference between wanting solitude and feeling responsible for your own safety every time you're around other people. We're going to come back to that. But first, there's something important to notice. Imagine two people leaving the same party. One goes home feeling satisfied but tired. The other goes home tired too. But they aren't tired from talking. They're tired from watching. Watching faces, watching reactions, watching for signs that something went wrong. From the outside, both people look introverted. Inside, they're having completely different experiences. Real introversion is often about energy. Emotional guarding is about safety. One person needs quiet because their brain enjoys lower stimulation. The other needs quiet because their brain never stopped scanning. That's an important difference. Because if you've spent years believing you're simply introverted, you might never notice the hidden pattern underneath. Maybe you don't ask questions because you don't want to sound foolish. Maybe you don't share exciting news because you're waiting for someone to criticize it. Maybe you stay quiet in group conversations because interrupting feels dangerous. Maybe you apologize for things that don't need apologies. Not because you're polite, because being careful has become automatic. Over time, this starts changing more than your social life. It changes your identity. You stop thinking, I stayed quiet today, and start thinking, I am a quiet person. You stop thinking, I don't trust people yet, and start thinking, I just don't like people. The behavior slowly becomes the personality. Psychologists sometimes call this a coping strategy becoming a trait. Something you learn to do becomes something you believe you are. The strange thing about coping strategies is that they're incredibly good at hiding. If someone asked why you stayed silent during a meeting, you might say, I had nothing to add. But maybe you had 10 ideas. You just couldn't be certain they were good enough. If someone asked why you left a gathering early, you might say, I'm tired. Maybe you were. But maybe your brain had been monitoring everyone's emotions for 3 hours straight. That's exhausting. There's another layer to this. People who stay emotionally on guard often become experts at reading other people. They notice small details, a pause, a sigh, a different expression, a delayed reply. Sometimes they're right. Sometimes they're completely wrong. But the habit stays. Because the brain learns an important lesson. If I pay attention, maybe I can prevent something bad from happening. The problem is that life doesn't work like that. You can't predict every disappointment. You can't avoid every misunderstanding. You can't control every opinion someone has about you. But your brain keeps trying anyway. There's a quiet loneliness hidden inside this pattern. Not because you're alone, because you're rarely relaxed. It's difficult to connect with people when part of your attention is always checking for danger. It's difficult to enjoy compliments when you're looking for hidden meanings. It's difficult to trust kindness when you're preparing for it to disappear. Over time, relationships can start feeling confusing. You want closeness, but closeness means uncertainty. You want people to know you, but being known means they could reject you. So your brain creates a compromise. Stay nearby, stay friendly, stay helpful. Just don't let anyone too close. The strange part? Many people living this way don't think they're anxious. They don't think they're afraid. They think they're careful, independent, private, reserved. But there is a question worth asking. If being alone brings you peace, why do you sometimes feel lonely? If avoiding people makes life easier, why do you secretly wish someone understood you without having to explain
Maybe because
yourself?
the part of you that stays on guard isn't trying to avoid connection. Maybe it's trying to protect it.
Maybe the distance you keep from other people wasn't created because you don't care. Maybe it was created because somewhere along the way, caring started to feel risky. And if that's true, then the quiet person you've become might not be your entire personality. It might be a strategy, a very old strategy, one your brain learned for a reason. The question is, what reason could possibly make your mind work this hard to keep you safe?